Welcome to our last module. It's been a rewarding experience going through this course with all of you, and I have been very excited by some of the contributions that you've made on the questions and issues that you raised during the course of the course. Now we are going to be looking at the future of sustainability regarding earth resources. Before we do that, we're going to look at this scripture. It's going to be some sort of a backdrop of what we've been talking about and where we are going. It's going to be in Psalms 24 verse 1. It's a Psalm of David. He says that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Let me read it again. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all who live in it, everything belongs to the Lord. When it comes to the natural resources, which throughout this course emphasis has been made on the fact that our civilization and way of life is heavily dependent upon these natural resources such as water, energy, and fertile land. And it has centered on our ability to explore, exploit, and develop these resources. So it's very important for us to understand that the resources are owned by God Himself, and we have to approach sustainability from that understanding. We are not the ones that own these resources. God is the one that made them. He's the one that owns them. Now, what is sustainability? Sustainability simply means that the ability for us to be able to extract enough resources to maintain our current standard of living while taking into consideration the needs of the future generation. We have to take out enough to take care of us and make sure that the future generation is going to have enough for them to be able to take care of themselves. The other part of sustainable development, it means a high quality of life for all people on our planet. A high quality of life for all people on our planet. You're going to realize, as we have already seen, that the way natural resources are being developed and consumed today, not everybody is having a fair share at how these resources are being used. For example, today we extract more than 50% of the natural resources than we did 30 years ago. We're looking at about 60 billion tons of raw materials that are extracted each year. With this increase in the extraction of natural resources comes some economic and environmental impacts, and some of these environmental impacts are more prevalent in the less developing countries, for example countries in South America, Asia, and Africa, because some of these countries don't have very good environmental laws, and even if they do, these laws are not enforced. So when we're looking at the future, it's going to be important for us to understand that we have to put into consideration some of the challenges that people living in this part of the world are faced with. So when we look at the future production and extraction of natural resources, if we, given the current trends of growth and extraction of these natural resources, we're looking at moving from about 60 billion tons to 100 billion tons by 2030. Now, People in rich countries consume up to 10 times more natural resources than those in the poorest countries. On the average, an inhabitant of North America consumes about 90 kilograms of resources each day. In Europe, we're looking at a consumption of about 45 kilograms per day, while in Africa, consumption is just 10 kilograms per day. You may be wondering why this huge discrepancy in the consumption of natural resources. It has to do with the fact that the current World Trade System helps support these substantial inequalities in the distribution and the use of natural resources. The issue is that most of the countries in the developing most of the developing countries don't have the capacity and the technology to extract and process these natural resources. And even those that are extracted, they end up being exported, and these countries don't have the ability to use them. And so this raises the important question for global justice and us being in missionary university, the issue of us being a brother's keeper. So when we'll be looking at some of the solutions and the future of natural resources and sustainability, it's important to factor that in. That for sustainability to make any sense, there have to be a good standard of living for everybody on the planet. So in order to create a more sustainable and equitable world, or in other words, for us to be one another's keeper, we have to, those that are consuming a lot of resources have to look for ways to get back per capita on the amount of resources that they are consuming, so that room can be given for the other countries to catch up with the levels of their development as well. And so this is going to include implementing policy measures that increase the prices of natural resources and reward a resource-efficient behavior. The exploitation, for example, we have to make sure that the exploitation of resources have to be more efficient within companies, and to increase in recycling and informing consumers about their options to reduce the use of natural resources. We can do better. It's possible to use less electricity, which is going to piggyback on the amount of coal and that is being burned to produce that electricity as well. And there is a very important question that needs to be answered. The way our economy is organized right now, maybe we need to start thinking of new models. How can new models of development be created in Europe and other industrialized countries that focus on well-being instead of increased production and consumption? Now, how can developing countries increase their quality of life without overusing the resource capabilities of our planet? So it is important that we'll not only be focusing on recycling, using less resources, but even redefining what it means to develop, what it means to be experience economic growth, and maybe we'll have to change the economic models that we're operating by. That notwithstanding, again, this is missionary university. We need to understand that all the issues that we've seen go back to the fall. It goes back to the death, decay, and destruction that was introduced in the earth as a result of the disobedience of Adam and Eve. And our blessed hope at the end of the day is not only sustainability, it's going to be total, complete restoration of the original conditions that were in the Garden of Eden. So there is hope for the future. And that is why we're going to be concluding with this verse in Romans, which says that, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. The creation itself is going to be liberated from this bondage to death and decay. That is amazing. That as we look at how we're going to ration resources, how we're going to be able to do much with little, the big picture is that of restoration, is that of the death and the decay on earth to be taken off. So the future is going to be an exciting one. We'll have to look forward to the future with this blessed hope. Once more, it's been great having you. I hope you enjoyed the class. Don't forget to fill in the surveys and give us feedback so we can keep improving and making this experience a worthwhile experience for the students that are going to take this next time. Thank you very much.